build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance that's bit in his eye. Oh, well, they gave me balls, but I can see between to a dusty yard and long gone green. We call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I drown my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober as a judge.
Hello everybody, welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty, this is episode 78. I'm joined tonight by John. John, how are you doing?
I'm no bad. I've had this mad wee eye twitchy thing for about a week now, and I don't know if that's a sign that I'm going to become like a lone gunman, or if I am a lone gunman in waiting.
Have you been like sort of inadvertently winking at people?
Do you know what? I thought it wasn't that noticeable. Like I didn't notice that I had an eye twitch myself because I couldn't feel it until recently when I looked in the mirror and I could see my eye twitching back at me. Like, what the fuck is that? And then I met up with one of my mates recently to play golf, and like we were kind of looking at each other across the tee. And he went, "Are you all right?" Like, I am fine. He's like, "Ah, it's just your eyes twitching." Like, fuck.
Well, I've not noticed it on our Skype call. If that's any consolation to you.
It's my right eye, but and I've got into this like really disgusting habit of sort of like try to grab it like the lower eyelid and sort of like pulling it backwards and forwards. And it makes me sound like I'm having a miniature wank, just to try and like sort out this twitching. Honestly, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this through the microphone.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice noise for everybody. Hi, did you have a good Christmas? Dodgy eye aside.
Aye, it was good. We went down to see the wife's parents, had Christmas dinner down there. We stayed for a couple of hours. We came home, and I think we ate some chocolates afterwards. I think I ate Cadbury's Heroes while the wife slept. That was quite nice.
Decent.
So I had about half a tub to myself. Gave myself a wee break for the workouts at home and just ate chocolate at home instead.
I've been getting wired into the Jaffa cakes. I got loads of them for Christmas. So
you've got a bit of a thing about Jaffa cakes, don't you?
I love a Jaffa cake. I've said it many times before, and they're still to send me any, which is disappointing. But I've got the strawberry ones and some pineapple ones.
Hold on. Jaffa do more than one flavour.
I'm hudding these up to the camera. That's the strawberry ones, right? And they're decent. And I've not opened the pineapple ones yet. And then once they're through, a twin pack of orange ones to get wired into as well. So I was like, that wasn't even like my main Christmas present or anything. No, it's not like I'm Tiny Tim or something like that. But aye, good Christmas anyway. I suppose we should say Happy Christmas to our listeners as well.
Especially now that you and I are able to speak to each other, because I know there was the suggestion that it was a proof of life video when you posted your message.
Yeah, now that I've been freed from that hostage situation.
I thought that was a nice touch, though. I thought that was pretty cool.
Did you like that? I just had a wee thought that would be a nice wee thing to do. So, and it was nice. Lots of replies from it, which was nice. So thank you to everybody who got in touch on the back of that as well. Wished us a happy Christmas. That was a good thing to happen.
Aye.
Right, well, what have we got to talk about? We had, so we beat St Mirren a while back. Probably that was too long ago to talk about it. Do you think?
Fuck, when was that? What was the result? Who scored?
It was 1-0 and...
Oh, it was Nisbet. It was Nisbet.
Aye. Was it Nisbet? Or was it McGuinness for the cross? See, this is the danger of leaving it this long is you forget what's happened in a game.
Who was it that Nisbet scored against where he stuck it in the top corner in the Dunbar end?
Right. That was St Mirren. And the other goal was against Dundee United when we fucked it at the last minute.
That's right. That was McGuinness.
Aye. That was. Anyway, some goal for Nisbet to win the game. It was a
poacher's finish. Was it a poacher's finish?
Nah.
Or was it was indicative of his just outrageous quality?
Aye, the latter. He kind of dug it out from his feet, didn't he? He was like took a touch to control the ball, and then just, I don't know if you would call it class as a dinked into the top corner.
I was going to say there wasn't I don't think there was a hell of a lot for him to aim at, and it was instinctive was the word I was looking for, because it reminded me a little bit of the goal against, I want to say, Cove Rangers. You know, with the one where Hallberg's kind of pinged a nothing ball in the box, and he sort of like caught it like on the turn and on the volley. So it was a good goal.
Something, and a good win as well, because St Mirren were had just beat Rangers, and they were about 10 games unbeaten, I think, before they came to Easter Road.
I thought it was 14, but I might be wrong on the numbers. I only say that because I think I saw something on Twitter that had said that much, that they were unbeaten in 14, but they'd only won like 5 games or something in that streak. So there was a lot of draws. I
thought it was 10. I thought they were unbeaten in 10. Maybe that was us.
Maybe the 14 included cup games. I don't know.
Who cares about St Mirren anyway? We beat them.
It's going to be at some point soon that we start taking the results of them, because we keep taking our players, ground staff, kitman.
I'd say that on Twitter, there's been a couple of tweets about him stealing stuff from St Mirren. And we said, well, we've also taken 6 points for 6 for them this season. So long may that habit continue.
How do you feel about like the wee sort of football friends relationship that's developing between Hibs and St Mirren? Because I feel like there's a decent bit of banter going back and forth between the various fan accounts on Twitter.
Well, I think with that, they enjoy trolling Hearts and we enjoy trolling Hearts. And I think that's where that's born from. But I think it's more one-sided now, because I think they're kind of resenting the fact that Hibs keep taking stuff from them.
Aye. It was kind of like a marriage of convenience until we started taking the piss a wee bit.
Aye. Although they should be fucking grateful, because John McGinn, I think, will be St Mirren's most lucrative transfer based on the deal that we did with other clubs.
Keeping the Paisley Panda in a uniform for years to come.
And, we paid good money for McGuinness. I don't think we paid anything for the McGinns, the other two. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what Jim Goodwin does at Easter Road when he takes over for Jack Ross eventually. I think we took their kit man recently as well. You saw that in the news. It came as a football logistics.
Aye, like is he come in on like a sort of temporary deal or something? Like he was on a full-time gig at St Mirren. He's come Easter Road part-time. I'm
not sure of the ins and outs of it. I think he's in until the end of the season initially. Right. Anyway, right, back to the football. 1-0 defeat at Ibrox on Boxing Day. What did you think of that game, John?
It reminded me, do you remember, I think it was maybe Helicopter Sunday, like many, many moons ago, where Rangers got a goal, and that was kind of it. Kind of shut, not that they shut up shop, there just didn't seem to be able to break them down. But at that time, obviously, like back Helicopter Sunday, Hibs were trying to secure a European place, and I think Tony Mowbray had suggested afterwards that Hibs didn't try too hard to try and get a result because their European spot was at stake, blah, blah, blah. I mean, obviously the circumstances were different. Fuck, whatever day it was. I don't know what day today is. Never mind when the game was played against Rangers. I thought first half the game, the performance, I thought Hibs were quite defensive, and I was a wee bit disappointed by that, because I think Hibs are a good team. I think Hibs are a good attacking team. And I think one thing that Rangers do really well is just go at teams. Like, they're just relentless, they're fast. They've got talented players there. But I thought it was maybe a wee bit how to describe it. I don't think we showed the best of ourselves in that first half. I don't think we showed what we're capable of. It was like a couple of other games that we've played already this season where it was just it was a little bit cagey, a little bit trying to absorb the pressure and hit Rangers on the break. And I thought, to be fair, like I thought we were doing well when we were doing that. And then they just sort of scored a goal out of nothing. Because the boy Barnes, he definitely had one, but he'd maybe had 2 saves at that point that were really, really good. And I was thinking, like if we can keep this tight, I'm hoping for a different second half. I'm hoping to start kind of pressing a little bit more. And then they scored a goal out of nothing.
It's funny you say that, because I didn't. Normally when we're at Ibrox, you kind of dread Rangers coming forward because you think they're going to score a lot. They have, especially this Rangers team, are pretty good coming forward. I never really was that panicked that we were going to concede. At least not a lot. And like you said, the goal kind of came from nothing. I think the defence switched off for a moment. I think Porteous was ball watching a wee bit. The boy Hadji gets a run on Hanlon. And then, get a goal down right after that. There's nothing really the goalkeeper could do about it. I think individually, I think all the players that were kind of involved in that and defending that move for Rangers were culpable to an extent, some more so than others. I definitely think if Hanlon switched on a wee bit more, that goal doesn't, or it's not as easy for Hadji to score it. But Hadji's a £7 million. Oh no, it wasn't him that was 7. That was Ken. Was it Hadji was £3 million or something? It's a £3 million player that you're up against, and the cost of that amount of money for a reason.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he's, I think whenever Hibs conceding, whenever we've talked about goals that Hibs have conceded before, like it's easy for us and it's easy for fans to point a finger and say you should have been doing this and you should have been doing that, but the opposition also have a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the boy, like Kent, as much as I don't like him, he's a decent player, and the same with Hadji. Like for all his theatrics that he's employed when he's played against Hibs before, he's also a good player. And there's just been 2 bits of good football from the pair of them there that's resulted in a goal. It was just disappointing because it was just that one tiny little, like, let's call it a lapse, for want of something else.
Yeah, and you get punished at that level, don't you? I mean, this is the thing, when you play a good team, they tend to punish you when you slip up.
Aye, I mean it's the same. Like we've talked about Hibs being clinical at the other end. When they've got shots on goal. So like Martin Boyle in the opening minute, for example. If you're just a little bit switched on, a little bit more switched on there, if you're a little bit more clinical, suddenly you're 1-0 up, and the whole game plan is completely changed, because then you're inviting Rangers to press, you're trying to hit them on the counter attack more, so on and so forth. And it's just that tiny little difference. And that's their Rangers are able to employ those kind of players through their use of funny money in the past, and fuck knows where they're getting the money from now.
Yeah, just borrowing, aren't they? Do you think Rangers look like a league-winning side?
I don't know. I don't think I really do. I mean, it didn't get me wrong. Like it's probably been like the football fan in me. It's found it pretty boring. That it goes against my whole sort of like football ethos, if you like, that you have one team or one of 2 teams or one of 3 teams, 4 teams, like you've got down in England, for example, or Spain or Italy, who dominate proceedings, because it just creates this monopoly at the top of your domestic league and then throughout Europe, and the little guys kind of like rattling around for scraps. Celtic completed their quadruple
treble.
Or quadruple treble, sorry.
How did they wrap that one up? Do you remember what happened?
I think there was a hotly contested fixture decided on penalties.
Was it? Who lost that one? Do you remember?
I think. Well, let's not talk about the losers, shall we? Or will we talk about the losers? No, it was Hearts. Hearts got beat. I didn't really care about who wins the league. It's nice that there's a change. It's nice that it looks like there's going to be a change. Be interesting to see what happens after Christmas, because I think that's where Rangers have struggled before, and Celtic have. I don't think they've really started as well, but they're still They're still second, third in the league with 3 games to play.
Second, yeah.
If they get those 9 points, there's a different perspective on the league. We'll see what happens, but I don't really care who wins out of those 2.
I really like it. It would be Rangers. Just I really didn't like them. I didn't really like Celtic either. So
still plenty of time for them to throw it away.
Well, if we get a good enough run going, you never know. Do some good, shrewd business in January. We can make a late push for it.
Aye.
I thought the reason I asked the question about a league winning side is we've taken a point off Rangers at Easter Road, and I thought we were more than a match for them. And I thought second half, especially on Boxing Day, we had them on the ropes, and there was an element of sort of not being clinical, not to say poor attacking play, because I don't think any of our play was particularly poor. But good defending from Rangers. I mean, they shut up shop well, and I think the boy Goldson was getting him good blocks and kind of getting his head on crosses and stuff. McGregor's obviously made a decent save from Hallberg.
Yep,
but
that's true.
We should have had 2 penalties, in my opinion, and I'm yet to be convinced otherwise that we should have had 2 penalties. One of them, the first one, with Newell, I suppose the only contentious bit there was whether or not Hadji's made contact with Newell's head. And that's it. If there's contact, it has to be a penalty. But even if there's not contact, there should have been an indirect free kick in a really dangerous place. And that was right in front of the referee. How he missed that, or how he came to the decision not to take any action, because he also ignored Joe Newell going down with a head knock after it as well.
Yeah.
So, there's a whole tick sheet of things that the referees got wrong in that incident. But then also the trip on Porteous for the second claim by Tavernier, I thought that was a penalty as well. I know Sportscene kind of highlighted that I think it was Nisbet had knocked into the defender, but I don't think there was enough in that to make him do what he did. He adjusts his right foot to clip Porteous. He's no knocked off balance. He's in control of his movement. It makes a very deliberate movement to trip up Porteous. So I thought that was a good shout for a penalty.
I must admit, thinking back to the game, I obviously saw the chat about it afterwards on Twitter. The suggestion that Hibs should have had a couple of penalties. The Newell one at the time, I didn't really appreciate it, and I actually can't remember the Porteous one, but neither of them registered with me at the time as being shouts for penalty claims. But that could be down to, I think it could be down to Sky commentary. The Sky commentary was pissed. They were talking about Dylan Barnes having, kept the scoreline reasonable and whatnot. So it could have been.
Andy Walker said if it wasn't for Dylan Barnes, it could have been 3 or 4-0. This is right after McGregor's pulled off the save from Hallberg as well. So we'll ignore the saves the Rangers goalkeeper makes. They're allowed to stand. But what kind of fucking commentary is that? If Hibs had no goalkeeper, Rangers would have scored more goals. Oh, fucking no shit, Sherlock, eh?
Andy, I didn't understand how Andy Walker has a job as a pundit, as a commentator, whatever. It's almost as if there's been something, there's been an agenda item at some sort of Sky Sports upper echelon meeting somewhere that said, let's get former players in. Let's see who's available. Let's see who can string a sentence together. And somehow Andy Walker made the cut. I've had a bee in my bonnet about him ever since the Scottish Cup final and the sort of final, the closing minutes. You've got Ian Crocker's iconic commentary, and then you've got Andy Walker coming in immediately afterwards, who repeats almost verbatim what Ian Crocker said. And you're like, how are you getting a job just repeating what the other boy said?
He's awful. Him and Davy Provan are the worst. I mean, Chris Boyd is another one on Sky's payroll who's, he's hopeless. Chris Boyd is actually hopeless at what he does. He did the thing at at half time, full time, when they're looking at the penalties, and he said, "Well, it doesn't matter. The referee never gave it, so no point talking about it. You just have to move on." And this was the guy who, for about 4 days after Martin Doidge's goal at Easter Road against Rangers, talked about how Boyle was offside, to the point he brought it up again at the start of that game on Boxing Day. He was still going on about it, but as soon as it's against Rangers, it's like, I didn't talk about it anymore. It's gone. Referee made the decision. On we go. I think fucking welt.
I don't disagree with that. I think something else. I think who was it that used to do it before? It was Chris Sutton and boy that used to play for Motherwell. Was it Stephen Cragen?
They do BT.
When they were involved at BT, they had a sort of frenemies thing going on, where they would sort of snipe at each other across the microphones. But actually, they were best of pals, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why Sky and I couldn't say Premier Sports, but certainly the broadcasters of Scottish football, it seems like they just go for former players, particularly old firm players, and they just get them in. It seems like for sound bites just to noise people up, and it doesn't actually offer anything of value to the viewer other than people like you or I to bitch about over podcasts or at work
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's just shite. Like I think that's something where the Scottish football government, the people that award the contracts, like sign off on it, are probably really short-sighted, because I still maintain, and I'll probably maintain this until my dying day, we've got a really good product there, but Scottish football undersells itself.
I just don't think Sky give a fuck about it. Do you know, you can tell by the amount of mistakes they make in their presentation, the Scottish football, that they're not particularly bothered. They've spent enough that they can show Rangers and Celtic.
You picked up on one, and I can't remember what it was. It was in one of their written tweets after the game. Oh, it was something that they said.
Oh, it was a brush of the Hadji's boot brushed past.
Aye. What was it they
Newell.
said? Was it brushed pasted or something? They said
Brushed pasted. Aye.
It's just like stupid stuff like that. I remember it wasn't too long ago where they had David Turnbull in a Motherwell shirt after he'd moved to Celtic, advertising. I think it was Celtic against Motherwell.
Aye.
Just really basic stuff. Like, do you think it's just like the work experience guys at Sky Sports that they get and go, who gives a fuck? Just put a Celtic strip up there. It doesn't matter.
Last man out of the building, or last woman out of the building. Just shit, this needs done. Go and just pick a random picture for the random picture generator there and stick it on any particular team name that you like. It's a mental thing, because you look at and obviously the coverage in England is, that's billions of pounds spent on it, so you'd expect it to be better. But you couldn't imagine Andy Walker or Chris Boyd or Davy Provan sitting down to do like a Monday Night Football that you get with Gary Neville and what's his face, Carragher, where they kind of talk you through what's happening in the game, and like a really kind of in-depth look at the tactics, the systems, the passages of play, what's happened, who's been at fault, who's done a good thing. What you get is Chris Boyd telling you say what you see. It's like fucking catchphrase. Oh, he's kicked the ball into the penalty area. Well done, Chris. Like, I couldn't have fucking figured that out for myself. Do you know, and I appreciate the irony of us on this particular podcast moaning about the lack of decent analysis of football. Because that's definitely a bit of the pot and the kettle in it. But
we've never put ourselves out there as being expert analysts. We've always said we're full of shit. Aye.
Aye, this is true. Right? I think we can have gone to talk about the TV.
We were talking about. I think that started off with, does it look like a title-winning side? And I think it's probably a wee bit of a cliche, but I think the way that Rangers went ahead and then closed out the game is one of the sort of hallmarks, if you like, of a title-winning side. And I don't really know if I want to try and pay them too many more compliments, because it was still a fair defeat.
It must be fucking easy winning every week when the referees help you to the extent that they helped them out on Saturday.
Aye, I mean, what do you say in a situation like the weekends where there isn't a crowd there to influence the referee? Is it just out and out cheating?
Well, you could call it that. I mean, how else would you explain it, John? I mean, this is the thing. So, granted, the referee, and I'll always will take the view. Referees only get one view of it, and they don't get multiple angles. But you look at that first incident with Newell and Hadji. The referee's right there. He's got a perfect view of it. And even if he's not sure if contact's been made, there's a foul because the boot is up at head height. So anywhere on the pitch, that's a free kick. Right? The only question then for the referee is, was there contact with Newell? Has Hadji made contact? Is it a penalty or is it an indirect free kick? To do nothing, to watch that and do nothing, that's no mistake. Do you know, like, it's not something that happens. You have to consciously make that decision to go, nah, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to leave that. The other one with Porteous, you could argue that the ball was going over everybody's head. You know, Porteous was never going to get to the ball. Doesn't really matter whether he was going to get to it or not. It's still a foul. But you probably could say that, right, the referee's eyes might have been somewhere else. He might have been looking to see where the ball's ending up, what's happening next in the next passage of play. But it's hard to look at it. It's just like I only had one look at that. It's hard for him to make a call on it. I reckon if that incident happened in another box, he makes a call on it, and I reckon that calls a penalty kick to Rangers.
Do you know what? it's hard to disagree. One of the things I was going to say was the Hadji boot, or the height of the boot. Was it one of those situations where if it happens anywhere else on the pitch, a free kick's awarded, but the referee's walked out of it because it's in the box because of the ramifications of it?
Yeah, I don't know what other explanation you could give for it, because I can't believe that he never saw it. Because that would be the only way that he could have chosen not to give anything there would be if he hadn't seen the incident. And if you see his position on the pitch and where he's looking at the time of the incident and where he is in relation to it, there's no way he could not have seen it. There's no way, unless he stood with his eyes shut. Maybe it's like having a wee. I'll shut my eyes and see if the game will move a bit quicker. Click wheels 3 times. There's no place like home. Maybe we should try if I could jump the traffic.
I'll need to watch the highlights back and see if he's got red sparkly heels on. One of the things I was going to ask as well is, like, just when you were talking about the penalty and Porteous, and there was a chance that he wasn't going to get the ball. Who was the referee in the Hibs Celtic game when Martin Boyle got his penalty awarded? I'd be interested to look back at that. I couldn't say whether or not it was Willie Collum.
No, who's the Baldy one?
Beaten?
No, maybe it was Beaten for that game. No.
I can Google it. I was going to start a Longbangers conspiracy that Willie Collum gave a penalty against Celtic, but he didn't give one against Rangers.
No, it definitely wasn't Willie Collum. Definitely wasn't it. I can't remember the guy's name. That's mental. I can totally picture him. Anyway, I probably got the wrong guy. Anyway, I'm putting the wrong man at the scene of the crime.
Listen, I do tend to agree with you that had the players in question been reversed and it was at the other end of the pitch, then I feel pretty confident that there would have been something awarded.
Aye. Although that said, and this is a game where you kind of, if you try to be objective and balanced, Rangers had a shout in the first half for a penalty. Although I don't think in a million years it was a penalty. I think it was Tavernier, wasn't it? That kind of put his foot into Gogic. Gogic was standing still, and Tavernier put his leg into him to go over.
Aye.
There's never a penalty in a million years. So, I mean, if the referee really wanted to shaft us, he could have given that. But sometimes no giving an award is as bad as giving an award.
Well, I think we had that conversation about Craig Thompson quite a few weeks ago now, about evening things up after his horror show in 2012. But listen, I don't think, as much as the team name has changed, I don't think that referees have perhaps changed their attitudes towards, like, fouls for and against either side of, well, either of the Glasgow teams, if you like, because I've seen so many examples in the past where, like, almost identical fouls, or literally, you'll maybe remember this. It was Tony Mowbray Hibs. Hibs beat Rangers 2-1 at Easter Road, and Chris Killen had been getting pulled and kicked and punched all day. And when he finally reacted against the boy Julian Rodriguez, Killen was the one that got sent off, and Rodriguez, nothing happened to him. And that's been pretty standard for years. And like I say, it's across both sides, both of the Glasgow teams. And the fact, like, I don't know, you can call me out again for my wild conspiracy theories, but I've often thought that referees have a vested interest in maintaining that monopoly at the tops of leagues, because it's just going to further line their own pockets. And if it means that there's a further talking point by Rangers ending the 9 in a row this year, then I'm pretty sure someone like Willie Collum or the other referees are going to be not for it, but certainly subconsciously influenced by it. Let's say.
I think they'll definitely be aware of the importance of the season to those two clubs.
Aye.
And they probably don't want to be the referee that is kind of calling a storm of a dodgy decision.
So there you go. That could explain.
If you didn't want that to be a referee, though, that comes to the territory. You can't referee a game with that in your head. You have to referee it based on what you're seeing.
I totally agree with you, but that maybe is a better explanation for not doing anything about Hadji or Newell than anything else. Just going, fuck that, I'm not getting involved in this shit.
Doesn't matter.
I didn't want to end up with a Hugh Dallas Windows getting panned in £1 coin for the upper gantry situation.
Aye. it's a sham, isn't it? Really, that. But I thought the team were good. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the role that Josh Doig, Dougie Tripod, and Drey Wright played in stemming the flow of Rangers' attacks. So I think Wright pretty much took care of Kent on one side, and Doig with Tavernier on another. They actually skinned them a few times. Doig, there was one incident in the second half where he kind of sent Tavernier to the shops as he went kind of towards the byline and got a good cross in.
I think, was that the cross that sort of clipped the post as well? Or
Yes.
the cross come shot? Aye.
Yeah.
I'd seen a couple of people talking about, when you force Tavernier to defend, he's fucking hopeless. Like, he is properly hopeless, and the plaudits that he gets for the number of goals, it's like, it's proper Alistair Campbell spin doctor bullshit, because he's not a good defender, yet that's where he plays. He gets a number of penalties. He didn't get me wrong, like, he's got a good cross on him, he's got a good free kick. I remember him scoring a cracker at Easter Road a few years ago now. But he's a stinking defender, and it makes me wonder. That kind of goes back to my point before about Hibs in the first half. Did we really try and attack that enough? Did we really try and exploit that? We certainly did. I want to say second half. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe contradicting myself with that Dougie Tripod shot come cross.
So I think what we saw was Hibs kept Boyle and Nisbet up front pretty much the whole game, which in itself stops Rangers coming forward, because you can't leave Boyle alone. If you're a defender, you can't commit men forward if you know Boyle's there, because his pace is so good, and Nisbet's good for linking the play up. I think when we tried to break, it's just a pity we never really had that moment of quality when we talked about it when Nisbet to win the game against St Mirren. We never had that moment of quality on Saturday, because some of our playing, and Joe Newell in particular, in the middle of the pitch was, I mean, phenomenal. I think he was the best player on the pitch from both sides on Saturday. Newell had an outstanding game, but when we got the ball into the dangerous areas, either the cross was maybe just a fraction ahead of the strikers, or it went on the defender's head, or it went out of play, or we saw the one where Boyle took it, and then he could have let it come across him and take it on his left foot, but he took a touch. But actually, he was unfortunate because he kind of tripped himself up in taking that touch, and he's off balance when he gets the shot away, and that allows the defender to clear. But even the one in the first minute where Doig, and I think that set the tone for Hibs as well. It said, we're not just in to sit and defend, we're going to have a go. First minute, you've got your wing back bombing up, fires in the cross, and it's only really, if you watch Boyle in that move, Boyle changes his stride ever so slightly to stay onside, which he needs to do, and it's that wee moment of slowing down means the cross when it comes in is just that wee fraction too far ahead of him. I mean, we've mentioned fine margins and it's a cliche on the podcast before, but that's the sort of fine margins between a goal or a really good chance of goal and it just not quite happening. With that, just that half step or slightly off balance when you take the shot. If those things go in your favour, we could have come away with a result. I thought it was good. I was really positive after it. Normally, when you get a defeat, you can be like looking down, especially there, because nobody likes losing to Rangers. But I thought we gave them a really good game, gave a really good account of ourselves, and it was one of these ones you come away from it thinking, you know what, we're actually, if we play as well as that most of the time, which we have been, we're going to do all right this season.
I think when I was watching the game, one of the stats that came up first half was that Rangers had something like, I want to say it was like 75% of the possession. And then second half, the same stat came up, but the other way around. And I think you're right. Like, it was just that one, quarter chance, half chance, just that opportunity to try and put it in the back of the net. Like, we weren't far away. And like you say, like, as much as the result was disappointing, what have you, one of the things that struck me was a lot of the criticism that Jack Ross has had while he's been, certainly this year, has been about mentality and big games and whatnot. I don't think that the way that Hibs set up, I don't think that the way that Hibs performed was any different than, say, when Neil Lennon took his teams to Celtic Park or Ibrox. Like, it was kind of very disciplined, and take your chances when they come to you.
Yeah.
And the chances didn't come to us, and Neil Lennon got a lot of plaudits for that. And I thought that there was really good indicators from Jack Ross, and actually probably in a couple of games so far this season. Like, first half at Easter Road against Celtic, we were disciplined in defence, just not when we were going forward. And we had a similar first half performance against Rangers. Again, whatever day it was. Second half, we started to try and exploit things a wee bit more, and it just, it just didn't get the chance. It just didn't get the rub of the green. And like you say, if you keep performing like that, we've said it before. Like when Dodge first came in, he was getting himself into the right areas. The goals will come. The goals came. The more that Hibs play that type of football, and the more chances they create, all that kind of stuff, the better off we'll be for it. And we're not even in a bad position now. Like,
exactly, yeah.
Like I say, like I'd looked at the run of fixtures. I can't remember exactly. I'd need to try and find my scribbled notes, but I thought we were going to get a certain number of points in a certain number of games, and I thought we were on track for maybe getting 40 by the turn of the year. And if we win tomorrow night, we're on 39, and that's not a terrible place for us to be.
Nah, no bad at all, man. Right, going to look at some comments that came in from Twitter. So, as usual, after the game, we'll ask people to share their talking points. So we'll go through those. First one's from Ryan Taylor. He said, "Is it time for officials to start facing the cameras after the games like managers do? Because we're starting to get more and more mistakes weekly."
I think I've asked for that before, where it would be really helpful for an official to talk us through an incident, like, say, Joe Newell, for example, we had you, like, what we as fans think, something should have been awarded. Can you explain why you chose not to do anything there? I mean, I couldn't honestly think about the sort of like the pros and cons, or the ramifications of that, because if you look at VAR down south, for example, how that's been introduced, in fact, not just down south, but around the world, like VAR is an absolute fucking shitmare. You kind of need
would
to
you have
be
taken
careful.
VAR if it meant we got a penalty? Like, if the right decision had been arrived at in that incident?
Nah, I wouldn't. I honestly wouldn't have VAR in Scottish football at all. I would never. I don't think I'd ever point at something and say fucking VAR this, VAR that. Like, I'd take goal line technology.
Yeah.
I'd take that, but because would we not find ourselves in a similar situation like with VAR, where you kind of give the authority to someone else in an undisclosed location, sitting in a wee box around the bank of monitors? Like, would you not ask them to explain themselves afterwards as well?
Aye, could get silly, yeah.
So I would have them. I don't know exactly how you would implement such a measure, because who decides what the talking points are that the referee should discuss? Is it up to them?
Yeah.
Is it up to someone? Someone in
Well,
a
is it
in a
broadcast?
boardroom?
Yeah,
I don't know.
You're right.
The
other thing is, what's Willie Collum going to say? That one, I didn't see it. Do you know? And how do you argue with that? Whether he saw it or whether he didn't, I didn't see it, so I couldn't give the decision. You can't really dispute that. Do you know, if that's the case, it's just bullshit. But you couldn't. If he tells you he's not seen it, he's the only one that cares whether he's seen it or not. I just didn't get what value you would necessarily get from a referee explaining themselves, other than fueling mere conspiracy theories, because folk would look for the consistency. And so, yeah, maybe I'm talking myself round again.
We'll get Willie Collum on TV and we'll just ask him straight: can jet fuel melt steel beams?
Aye.
Once and for all, William. Explain.
But if a referee explains why they made a decision in one game, if there's a similar incident and they arrive at a different decision and explain it, another one, folk would just want to sit and pick holes in it.
Aye. Well, I mean, that's it. Just like you say, it's just another avenue for controversy, and I don't know. Maybe we need less rather than more.
Yeah.
I don't like you said. I don't know what it would solve. As much as there's a desire for me to understand why referees have called certain things, maybe I just don't need to know.
Aye. I think the other thing was highlight how little of the laws of the game we understand as well. Another thing, you go and say, can high boot that should have been a penalty? It's not, it's an indirect free kick. Or how many times do you see a player knee the ball back to the goalkeeper picks it up and everybody goes, pass back. But it's not if it comes off the knee, things like that. Or what was it when I was losing my shit about? We had an offside given against us, and the referee gave the free kick in our half. Right, and I was like, how can he possibly how can he possibly offside? But the rule had changed, so it's when he plays the ball. Yep. So he'd come from an offside position into our half, played the ball, therefore the foul's committed from being offside, and the free kick gets taken from where he played the ball. So the referee was right. I was calling him for everything because I'm an idiot.
But then I think these rules sometimes, not that we're party to like the rules of football chapter and verse, but the rules sometimes get brought in under the radar. So
yeah,
like I grew up. It was only recently, but to the best of my footballing knowledge, the kickoff was always taken with two players and the ball was played forward. And then I think it was after the most recent World Cup.
Yeah, they changed it. Hang on, World Cup, whatever it was.
Hang on. There's just one person there taking kickoff. What's going on here? But I'd like it, but I don't know that it would make any difference. And like you say, all the referee needs to say is, I never saw it.
Aye, and it's his interpretation is other thing, which ultimately is what it comes down to, or her.
Aye, and it's that thing that, like, stuff, games only played in screen grabs or pictures or instant replay or slow motion. They make the decision, they imply the laws as they see them at the time. And it's, as much as I think they're cheating bastards, like, you kind of have to give them that.
Aye, so we'll be sticking up for him. Column's a shite referee anyway, which is another point we should make. He's between him and Clancy, they always look like they've got a mistake in them.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, Mike.
Dallas just looked like a mistake.
Listen, about him the better. Mike said, I'm assuming Colm has his subscription for the Lodge next year paid after that. Yep, probably right. Lee, so his first point was Shan referee, which we've covered. The next one, Boyle back to his best. So a couple of games now, Boyle's been a really key man for us. I think he was right up there with Joe Newell in the last couple of games.
Aye, I think Will Boyle's maybe come in for a wee bit of stick for some quarters. I think I tried to stick up for him recently, say that he'd always been involved in attacking play and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I had a wee look at some stats online, and it didn't get me wrong. Like, I remember the late great Ebbe Skovdal when he was talking about statistics, saying they were like miniskirts, like they were pretty, but they had the most important things. But Martin Boyle had scored as many and had been involved in as many assists this year, or this season rather, as he had been for the whole of last year.
Yeah.
Which kind of suggested to me, at least on paper, that he was still contributing, still a valuable member of the squad. But as I was saying there about stats and whatnot, it's not just the goals you scored and the assists that you've been involved in. There has been like a marked difference in his performances, and I couldn't put my finger on exactly what it is. Like maybe he's just found something again. Like maybe he was hampered a little bit by an injury or something before. I don't know what it is. Like he just seems to have, I don't know, a bit. I don't know what I say. Desire. There's just a little bit more about the Martin Boyle of old. Not even of old. Like just of 6 months ago. When we were clamouring for him. Not. In fact, I wouldn't even say we were clamouring for him to sign a new contract. We were resigned to losing him, and then we got him, and he had, he started off this season really well. I think he's maybe had a wee bit of a dip, but not drastic. But certainly looking like Martin Boyle of shit, we're going to lose him.
Yes, yeah, and it's great to see. I think Boyle at his best, and maybe it's seeing some other players taking the plaudits. Sometimes that happens as well, where you have a player in the team who is the key man, for want of a better expression, and they get a little bit. I don't know that I'm suggesting that happened with Boyle. Maybe I'm suggesting that, but I think you get complacent, thinking, I'm the main man in this team. They'll be lost without me. But then all of a sudden you've got Murphy coming in and showing you up on another wing. You've got Nisbet banging in wonder goals. You've got Doige working tirelessly and getting, going on a scoring run. You've got Joe Newell just being Joe Newell. Do you know, all of a sudden, you've got McGinn rattling in goals. All of a sudden, other people are getting the limelight, and you think, actually, I was maybe a wee bit too comfortable here. I need to go and up my game. And when Martin Boyle plays at his best, Martin Boyle is probably still our key player, I would say. Anyway,
out of the crop of players that we've had in in squads in recent years, he's probably been the standout alongside Marciano, probably.
Yeah, in a post McGinn world, post John McGinn world,
post Super John McGinn world, aye.
Yeah. January additions by looking at the bench on Saturday. So our squad, if you look at the team that started, we were missing a few key players on Saturday, which is another thing that kind of went under the radar. I think when you consider how well we played, we were missing Doige, we were missing Stevenson, McGuinness wasn't fit,
yep.
Murphy couldn't play. So
was Murphy fit, but like cup tied, if you like?
I think he was ineligible, but I think he's also injured. As well.
Right, okay.
I don't think he's back for tomorrow's. I don't think he's back for tomorrow's game either. And then, so when you went to the bench, we didn't really have a lot to come off of the bench. So, where would you be strengthening? And I think we maybe can ask this question before, but
it's hard. It's hard because I think we have definitely talked about this before. Because I remember going through the squad, kind of like, or we went through the squad rather, like name by name, and we kind of talked about like strength that we had at different positions. But I think perhaps injuries and ineligibilities and what have you at the weekend there, I wouldn't say that we're threadbare, but it was kind of like a wee bit of a perfect storm, wasn't it? So I think, is Sean Mackey injured just now?
Good question. Yes, I think so.
Because I did think it was, this isn't a slight against him, or rather Dougie Tripod. I just thought it was a wee bit interesting that Dougie Tripod was in the lineup ahead of Stevenson or Mackey, but I realised that Mackey was injured a few weeks ago, and I thought it was an interesting tactical choice. But we're maybe missing another striker, and I think we mentioned that maybe in the last couple of weeks, like maybe like an old head, like a sort of Grant Holt type.
Yeah,
someone there to bolster the numbers, maybe even if it's only for like 6 months or like a year and a half or whatever it happens to be. Midfield, I think we've probably got a pretty healthy complement of players there.
Yeah.
Centre half maybe need someone again. Like it could be. Remember when we brought in the boy for? I think he used to play for Motherwell and he'd been playing in like the Malaysian Super League or something. Just a bit of cover, because I think when you get past Hanlon, Porteous, McGregor, unless you start shifting the formation about, you bring in, drafting Paul McGinn as a centre half. There's nobody else. I mean, sorry, I say there's no one else. I'm not aware of anyone else in the, like, say, the development team that's on the fringes breaking into the first team. So that suggests that you have to go into the transfer market. So I think that's where I would be looking. A couple of seasoned professionals that might come in if you're not sort of looking long term for replacements or whatever.
Yeah, it seems reasonable. Paul McGinn had a great game on Saturday as well.
Yep,
I meant to mention him. Newell, a must for a new contract. They still not signed it. It's like it brings one to the next point. Came for Leon, who asked, is he going to be the next Hibs player on the long list to leave just as we're getting the best out of him?
How to answer this? So it wasn't that long ago that Joe Newell was the not good enough.
He was the Drey Wright. He was the Drey Wright of the Hibs squad.
He was the Drey Wright before he was Drey Wright. Before Drey Wright was Drey Wright. I'm optimistic of Joe Newell signing a new contract. But fuck, I'm optimistic about everything. I'm optimistic that Hibs are going to win the league. Yeah, I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him sign a new contract. I'd love to see more of him play his football in a Hibs shirt, because his performance on Saturday there, like, it's going to. If it's not attracting attention, then scouts, managers, etc., aren't doing their job, because it was a standout performance, and he's one of those players that's just like, he came in for a lot of flack to begin with. Might have been that he was being played out of position, whatever. but he's really, really shown what he's capable of for a number of months now. So if there's a deal on the table, I would love for him to sign it. I'd love to see him be part of that Hibs midfield for a good number of years to come.
Yeah, I hope he signs it.
Maybe they're just I don't know. Like I think there's an offer on the table for Marciano. I would imagine it's just agents, club, back and forth, just kind of working out finer details, making sure they get their image rights compensated when they appear in the next edition of FIFA.
There was a couple of players kicking off about that, wasn't there? Zlatan Ibrahimovic went mental about being in FIFA without his permission.
He's. Do you know what? I didn't buy into the whole cult of Zlatan at all. Fuck, I'm like you're almost 40, mate. Like, go and get a break. Like, you're an old man.
Calm yourself down.
I think on that note, like, just in terms of my optimism, like, I remember making a joke about my HSL money being directed towards Martin Boyle. Now that he's got his new contract, put it towards Marciano. Like, I'm assuming that Martin Boyle was well rewarded when he got his new contract at Hibs, and I think that was. I'm hopeful that it was part of Ron Gordon being at Hibs and seeing the players and the people that are there to push the club forward. So hopefully there's like a little bit more clout there when we're trying to renegotiate the deals for players that in the past we've lost.
It's almost at the point I think I would rather see Marciano and Newell extend their stay than see us strengthen in January. Do you know if you had a limited budget?
If it was one or the other.
I'd rather go with what we've got and make sure we didn't lose anybody. Speaking of losing people, Kevin Nisbet touted with a move to Sheffield United today.
I saw that on Twitter.
What a shite.
I think it would be the wrong move for him, and I say that as a football supporter, not as a Hibs fan, because I think, like, looking at his career so far, he had his spell at Partick and then he had to drop down the leagues a wee bit, and he's worked his way back up. He's had a few good months now, and don't get me wrong, like, they've been like stellar months. He's put in, as well-rounded a performance as a striker as anyone that we've seen of late in a Hibs shirt. Like, it's not just goals; it's all round play. Give it a bit more time, because like look at what we've done at Hibs. At least even just look at the career of John McGinn and the move that he got. Look at that and stay with us as long as you possibly can, and then go for that move.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
And I think when Nisbet came from Dunfermline to Hibs, Dunfermline fans kind of sent him to Hibs saying, you go with our best wishes, and we talked about it at the time, saying that was such a rare thing. Mm-hmm. I'd like to have that kind of goodwill kind of push forward for Nisbet in a couple of years' time.
Good shout. Kunster said, Josh Doig, we haven't seen a talented young player who will go right to the top in football at Hibs since Kevin Nisbet.
That I was going to say that the academy's finally paying off, but obviously Nisbet came for Dunfermline. There's players coming through, and it's like they're getting bloodied. They're getting game time. They're getting introduced to games. They're getting pulled out. You've got the experienced pro there. That's kind of it's all good stuff for Hibs, and not just for Hibs, but for the players as well. Like, it's not just a case of you get them in the door for a year, 18 months or whatever, and then suddenly Sheffield United, for example, come calling, and then the career stalls for a wee bit, and then they find themselves back up in Scotland again.
Did you see we had the partnership with Stenhousemuir?
Aye,
that's like a player pathway, isn't it? Like effectively not really a feeder team, but we'll give them players, I think, and let them develop them and give them first team football, and then we'll have returned to us a more rounded and more experienced young player.
Do you think that's us trying to remedy the fact that we pulled out the development league or anything, like trying to make sure that players get proper game time, get proper games? Because I don't know when we pulled out the development league, and I think it was under the Yorkshireman, because he said the guys that were playing, it wasn't proper games. It was kind of like, you took what was available. They wanted like proper games, proper structure, proper development plans in place. Do you think that's what we're getting now with Stenhousemuir? It's kind of mutually beneficial in as much as that, Stenhousemuir get sort of full-time players, if you like, albeit younger guys.
Yeah, I think it's. I think it'll work in tandem with it. I think there's a very clear path what the development team or that side of the club want to do, and I think we're having something like this with Stenhousemuir or any club at that level. It's definitely mutually beneficial, isn't it? Because Stenhousemuir get a player that they probably couldn't have attracted, or afforded, potentially. And we get a player who's playing league football at a good level to see how they get on. So it matures them physically, develops them physically. They get to understand the importance of winning competitive games, because for a lot of these players, they need win bonuses and stuff like that to kind of, just to live. They take it as part of their salary. So they have that pressure of needing to perform and things like that, which you would never get in development football or reserve football as well, because reserve football is not the same as playing competitively, or it definitely hasn't been for many years. So I think there's that, but there's also things that kind of sharing best practice. I think you might also see, and this is just me speculating, but it's maybe more accessible for players at different areas of the country to get to Stenhousemuir than it is to get to Tranent or Ormiston. So we maybe get to make use of their facilities, make use of their coaches. We might get to develop their coaches. All this kind of thing could go kind of hand in hand. I like to think we're doing it in more than one club, that we have that kind of arrangement, because I suppose the broader your reach, the more benefit you'll get from it.
Aye.
I like our stuff like that. See, if I had a football club, that's exactly the kind of thing I'd be looking at then. I think it's a great idea.
It's nice to see just like positive things coming at Easter Road. Like we've had a laugh recently about the number of different sponsorships, or like corporate partnerships rather. But like I'm a fan of them. Like honestly, I think I'd said before, like Slap as many different sponsors or corporate partnerships as you want on the shirts. If it's bringing money on Easter Road, I'm happy with it. I was going to say, like, I wonder if it was maybe in response to, how it's been mooted a couple of times about like Rangers and Celtic coat teams in the lower leagues.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is like a sort of not an answer to it or a response to it, but maybe like some sort of measure to say we don't want to be left behind. Like we want to be developing our players at the same sort of level to get them, like all the things that you mentioned, the first time experience, pressure, win, all that sort of stuff.
Aye, that's a good point. I hadn't really considered the coat teams. I actually think there's more benefit in doing it this way than having a coat team, because again, the coat team, my understanding is they can only get, they could win the league, but they couldn't get promoted. They kind of are capped at that level.
Aye, so that kind of brings, that's almost like your development
league. Take away the pressure. Yeah.
Aye, we can win, but what does it matter if we don't?
Yeah. So having the opportunity to put the players in a competitive environment is better than having a coat team, I think. And cheaper, probably, as well, because it takes some of the cost away. Okay, right, next point came from William Graham. He said, decent performance. Who or what can improve the team within Scotland? So anybody from any of the other clubs that have jumped out at you, John, that you think they would make us better?
I think there have been in different games, but honestly, I couldn't. And this is just purely down to my own ignorance, and it's not a slight on any of the players in Scottish football. I just couldn't remember them or remember their names, or not sound like I'm going for like a soundbite. Like Alan Campbell's been touted a number of times, and I think I remember asking one of my mates about him, saying like, who would you see as a sort of like for like replacement for him at Easter Road? And the answer was Joe Newell. And I said, well, what does Alan Campbell bring that Joe Newell doesn't? And he said, I think it was energy. I think energy, that was the word that he used. But I don't know. I don't know that I would take Alan Campbell at Hibs. just because I think it might upset the balance. Because I think you wouldn't want to lose Joe Newell, but then maybe Hibs kind of want to keep their iron in the fire, as it were. And maybe Alan Campbell is a replacement for Joe Newell if Newell decides that he doesn't want to stay at Easter Road and he wants to go somewhere else. I think, by the way, the boy, what was the boy, the Dundee United keeper, Secrets?
He's getting linked with Celtic.
After his, I no wonder. I was going to say after his performance, I would take it from Easter Road. Aye.
There's a boy Kerr at St Johnstone as well. I think is a defender. If I'm right, I think it's mentioned as well.
I think they had a boy that I think's now gone back to Millwall. Wasn't he McNamara?
Yeah.
He's a decent player.
Yeah, he was good. I'm glad we won't be facing him in the semi-final.
Because he's away back to Millwall, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll get the same standard in to replace him, which is going to be a good thing for us. Right, last point of the evening comes from Dave Thompson. He said, do you think Hanlon is getting it unduly tight from a section of the support? A couple of mistakes this season, but look pretty good to me. Who's better available and within our budget? So Hanlon comes up and
I think he's a focal point. Sorry, not a focal point. He's a talking point almost on every podcast.
Yeah. So my take on Hanlon is I like Paul Hanlon. I think he's a good defender. I think he makes mistakes, but I think we've got players right across the park who make mistakes. And I think people jump on Hanlon's mistakes a lot. And I think he does get it. My opinion is he gets it unduly tight. No, I don't mind players getting criticised when it's merited is absolutely fine. But no, if that's all you do, if all you ever do is pick out one player and highlight their mistakes, that's no fair. For me, I think people lose objectivity. I think there are definitely people whose minds are made up on Paul Hanlon. And regardless of whether it's a good game, his good games go unnoticed, but when anybody makes a mistake, it gets highlighted.
Aye.
That's my thought on that point.
I like Paul Hanlon. I do. I do think he's a player that requires the right sort of partner to play alongside. I thought when part of that cup winning lineup, when he had McGregor alongside him, when we had that sort of solid back four, if you like, I thought he was excellent. I think he's more of the sort of kind of mop things up. Have someone like McGregor attack the ball, have someone like Porteous attack the ball, and then you've got a sort of positional guy like Paul Hanlon. And I think he does that really well. That's not to say that he doesn't make mistakes. I think one thing, I think we talked about it a few weeks ago now. It was, I think Hanlon is capable of one mistake in a game, but then I don't necessarily think that that's a unique trait. I don't think that's a Paul Hanlonism, if you like, because we've seen mistakes from everyone. We've seen, and again, I don't even think I don't know how much value there is in pointing out every single player's mistakes, because we could be here all day.
Yeah.
Human
beings.
Aye, and I was thinking about this recently. When you see some of the chat that you get on Twitter and message boards and whatnot, when you see people, fans, people like ourselves, when you see them really criticising, really going after players hard, I think to myself, well, I'm not a professional footballer. Was I an amateur footballer? The peak of my career was the Edinburgh Finance League. That was it. I played a couple of games there, and then fucking knee injuries slowed me back. Really, as a fan, when a player has makes a mistake or has a poor performance, really, what more can we honestly be saying other than, it was a bit shite today?
Aye.
I don't know. I don't know. I find it really, really hard. I do find it really hard to go after a Hibs player. Whether it's young guys or experienced pros, they're still pulling on the Hibs jersey. They're still that. They are part of the team that I'm going to see. And I want to see you perform at your best. And I don't think that me screaming or shouting at you for the stands is going to allow you to do that.
Aye. Yeah, I think we're on exactly the same page with that, John. So it's never been in my nature to do that. I want to see every Hibs player do well.
Aye.
And I tend to forgive their mistakes and defend them, probably to a fault. Sometimes I would be defend them too much. But if I think, like, even I've got a team at work, so I manage a team. My team at work will make mistakes. When they might be mistakes that cost the business money because we've got to fix something for a customer or whatever. I think we'll ball them out for it. Like, they're not meant to do it. It's just people make mistakes. I'll make mistakes in my line of work where I'll maybe not complete a task on time, or make a mistake when I'm entering some data, or whatever it is. Maybe have a conversation with somebody that, if I went and reflected on it, I would have had that conversation differently if I had my time again. Because I'm a person, and that's what happens in sport, and especially elite sport. You have other elite sportsmen trying to force mistakes. They try to get one over you. It happens. Hanlon's one on Saturday. I made the point. He's up against a multi-million-pound player. Do you know what I mean? It's not like we've gone man for man with Rangers and matched up and said we are the equivalent of quality across the pitch. Now, we have players who played really, really well and gave them a game. We lost the game, but we gave them a game. We made life difficult for them. For 99% of that game, Rangers found it hard to get past their defence. Do you know what I mean? Hanlon had a good game. You can say he could have done better in that one instant, and 100% he could have. And if you wanted to really, really say you can only blame one person for that goal, the blame would probably sit with Paul Hanlon. But it's a team sport, and that's not what happens in football. It's very rare that it's one person's fault for a goal being conceded. Sometimes you just have to say, right, I could have done better, but look at what the other player did. So it was a great run for Hadji. He came off the blind side of Hanlon. Hanlon's actually, if you watch it, he sees Hadji there, but Hadji's making a move when Hanlon looks to go to back post, which is where you'd probably be expecting the ball to kind of come across, that sort of low cross to the back post and have somebody coming in the back of the defender. He came in on the other side of him. It happens. It's a game of football. Like, and if you played at a shit level, you've made a mistake. You've done something that actually, even relative to your level, would still be seen as bad player, a mistake. Like no controlling a ball or putting a pass right out of the pitch when it should have went 2 yards to the person you're trying to pass it to, or heading the ball with your nose instead of your forehead. That kind of thing. It happens. And in professional sport, there's still people who still make mistakes. I would say, you look at our defensive record. If you want to say, is Paul Hanlon good enough for Hibs? Look at our defensive record this season. Compare it against other teams. We're doing all right. We're sitting fourth in the league, boy away for third. We're doing all right. Paul Hanlon's doing all right. That's my view on it. And I think this, like the urgency that some people have to go and slaughter him, I just think, fucking give it a rest, eh? Go and get behind the team.
I channel that negativity in a more positive way. And which admittedly, like, it is more difficult just now because we're not at the games. But why not keep that to yourself?
Aye, and listen, everybody's got a right to an opinion. This is the beautiful thing about football and social media and all the rest of it, is you're totally entitled to do it. And if that is your opinion, it's not for me or for you to say you can't do it or you're wrong for doing it. Just opinion. It is what it is. And the thing with football is, if you say somebody's shite long enough, you're going to be right. Because you'll be able to pick up 4 or 5 instances where a player's cost their team, either a striker no scoring goals, or a midfielder no tracking runners, or a defender no cutting out the ball. Eventually, if you keep going on about and making the point about a player not being good enough, you'll be able to say that player's not good enough. You could do it with the best players in the world. You could go and say.
Funny thing is, just with the opposition at the weekend there, like, me and my mates have ripped the piss out of Steven Gerrard for years, and you can imagine how we rubbed our hands with glee when he slipped against Chelsea, and after the whole "this does not slip" chat. But then you forget that the boys won what? The European Cup, the UEFA Cup, Cup Winners' Cup, like he's a decorated sportsman.
Aye.
Like,
Well, we were talking about with David Luiz. Do you know what I mean? Like, we had the conversation.
Oh, he has shit though.
Well, this is exactly the point I'm making. When compare his medal haul with 99% of the good players that you think, and
I
suppose who looks better.
I suppose I need to correct myself in that instance when I said that David Luiz is shit. I think that he gets far more plaudits than he deserves. Like he's still a professional footballer, and he still makes. I think he makes catastrophic mistakes rather than just like human error. Like I don't know what goes through his head, but he goes full sideshow Bob when he does some of them.
But folks said that about Effie Ambrose as well. And how much did we enjoy watching Effie Ambrose?
I don't know. I can't. Someone will correct me. I remember Ambrose making a mistake at Pittodrie that did cost us a goal. I don't know how many goals an Ambrose mistake actually cost us more than that. I hope someone will tell us. I think the one thing about Ambrose was no, I just from a purely scientific point of view. But like Ambrose was a technically gifted footballer, and he was also quite athletic as well. So the things that he tried, he was quite often able to get away with, if you like, because he was able to kind of make up for any sort of
he knew what he was doing. This is the mental thing. I can't remember who was having the conversation. But it's like, if you're Effie Ambrose, he has our hearts in his mouth because we didn't care what he was about to do. He knew what he was doing. He was all right with it. 9 times out of 10, he was all right with it. He wasn't a bomb scare at all. He was just a good player. He just knew how he wanted to play. Anyway, folk are totally. I can't stress enough. Folk are entitled to their opinion. Totally entitled to voice their opinion. I didn't want to feel like I'm preaching at people or anything like that because I didn't really care if folk want to go and can slaughter players. That's their prerogative, and it's not for me to say that any day. It's just like, is there a need? And try to be objective with it, was all I would say. Last point, I forgot to read this one. This was for Debbie, just when you mentioned it there. Debbie tweeted us and said, Steven Gerrard is a gimp.
Aye.
He spent the whole of that game with his I'm having a tricky shite face on him again.
As much as I was saying about like the, being a decorated sportsman and us rubbing our hands and gleeing that, like Gordon Strachan did it when he was Celtic manager. Like Gordon Strachan was well known as a guy who was kind of like reporter, maybe not friendly, but he was good for a quote. He always gave an interview, and he seemed to like approachable. Like we Gordon Strachan, like he's good guy kind of thing. Celtic manager, and he turned into the Green Goblin for Spider-Man. Like he just wasn't giving anyone anything. And one of the first things I think that Steven Gerrard did when he came through the doors at Ibrox was talked about how referees hadn't been given Rangers, a fair crack of the whip for a year. So the decisions. That was the chat. And to anyone outside of Ibrox, any supporter outside the Ibrox, you must have been thinking you're having a fucking laugh. And then there's been numerous bits, like so far too many for me to go through here. But then there was the one recently about Morelos with the elbow on the boy. I forget what his name was at Dundee United when he was saying there was no contact. There was it was clear. Like it's almost like I was going to say it was almost like Arsene Wenger levels of I never saw that, but it's on a completely different level. Like he's signed up to the sort of siege mentality at Ibrox, and I don't know where the siege mentality comes from because like they're the ones that have given themselves the whole "no one likes us, we don't care" chat, but they fucking do care.
Oh, aye, you never hear them fucking about it.
And like, what's the conspiracy? Like, you paid funny money, you got punished for it, you're back, you're spending stupid money again, you're going to win the league. What's there to moan about?
Aye,
really. So Gerrard's a gimp.
Yep, we're all agreed. Right, just to wrap up then, we play Ross County tomorrow night. How do you see that one going?
I'd normally go for like a 2-0 win. But with John Hughes being in charge, actually after seeing I think they had 2 players sent off at the weekend. I was expecting, as John Hughes sides tend to do when they come to Easter Road, except when they're, when he's in charge of Hibs, it tends to be a pretty physical kind of bring you down to their level kind of encounter. Excuse me. But saying that, Ross County seem to be in a lot of bother right now. So I'm still optimistic I'll win. I don't know if it'll be comfortable. I don't know if all 22 men will stay on the park. But I still think Hibs will win. I still think we'll be too good for them.
I think we're in a good place just now. I think we are. I've said it, and it's because it's true. We're consistently performing at a good level at the moment. And I think if we continue that consistency, we will have too much for Ross County. And I fancy us to win by at least 3. That's my prediction. You going for a score? You going for a score line?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were. I'll still go 2-0 Hibs with Ross County having a man sent off.
Aye, I'll take that. Right, that's us for this evening, John. We will be back, I think, on Thursday. What day is it today? Tuesday. Actually, maybe no, because Thursday's Hogmanay. We'll not do a Hogmanay short bangers or that. We'll leave it till the new year.
I was going to say, my mate, my adopted dad, who's younger than me, is getting married on Hogmanay, believe it or not. He's managed to persevere and get that ceremony set up. So best wishes to him when it happens. I'll be there, obviously.
Best wishes. Are you best man?
It's not been confirmed, but I've got a speech written.
What do you mean it's not being confirmed? It's like 2 days away.
He's never actually asked me. That's the thing. I think it's just a given. But
we just made this awkward.
Maybe, especially if he listens this far. We'll see.
Right. Well, I'm excited to find out now. That's the life that my Hogmanay.
I me too.
Well, best of luck with the wedding. Thanks everybody for listening. John, thanks for your time. Have a great new year when it comes, everybody. Hopefully we've got some Hibs wins to celebrate as well. Take care and we'll see you on the other side.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink